शुक्लांभरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। अगजाननपद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानाम् एकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्ज सम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्वजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगदः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन्। हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि आर्तान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशीविभूषितकरात् नवनीरधाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഈ തീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടാത്തോരു രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കനായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the class. Okay, so we'll do a quick review of 13 and 14 today. Let me see. Padmaja, Ramesh, can you do 13, and then Madhu, you can do 14. Okay.
हिरण्याक्ष वध वर्णनम्। हिरण्याक्षं तावद्वरद भवदन्वेषण परं चरन्तं सांवर्ते पयसि निजजङ्घा परिमिते भवद्भक्तो गत्वा कपटपटुधीर्नारदमुनिः शनैरुचे नन्दन् धनुजमपि निन्दं स्तव बलम् स मायावी विष्णुर्हरति भवदीयां वसुमतीं प्रभो कष्टं कष्टं किमिदमिति तेनाभिगतितः नदन् क्वासौ क्वासाविति स मुनिना दर्शितपथो भवन्तं सम्प्रापत् धरणिधरमुद्यन्तं मुदकात् अहो आरण्योऽयं मृग इति हसन्तं बहुतरैः दुरुक्तैर्विध्यन्तं दितिसुतम् अवज्ञाय भगवन् महीं दृष्ट्वा दंष्ट्रा शिरसि चकितां स्वेन महसा पयोधावाधाय प्रसभमुदयुङ्क्ता मृधविधो गदापाणौ दैत्ये त्वमपि हि गृहीतोन्नत गदो नियुद्धेन क्रीडन् गडगडरवोत्पुष्टवियथा रणलोकौत्सुक्यान्मिलति सुरसङ्घे धृतममुं निरुन्द्याः सन्ध्यातः प्रथममिति धात्रा जगदीशे गदोन्मर्दे तस्मिन् तव खलु गदायां दितिभुवो गदाघाताद् भूमौ झटिति पतितायाम् अहह भोः मृदुस्मेरास्यस्त्वं धनुजकुलनिर्मूलनचणं महाचक्रं स्मृत्वा करभुवि दधानो रुरुचिषे ततः शूलं कालप्रतिमऋषि दैत्ये विसृजति त्वयि चिन्तत्येन करकलितचक्रप्रहरणात् समारुष्टो मुष्ट्या स खलु वितुदं स्त्वां समतनोत् गलन्माये मायाः त्वयि किल जगन्मोहनकरीः भवच्चक्रज्योतिष्कणलवनिपातेन विदुते ततो मायाचक्रे वितत घनरोषान्धमनसं गरिष्ठाभिर्मुष्टिप्रहृदिभिः अभिघ्नन्दमसुरं कराग्रेण स्वेन श्रवणपदमूले निरवधिः महाकायस्सोऽयं तव करसरोजप्रमथितो गलद्रक्तो व्यक्त्रात् अपतदृशुभिश्लाघितहतिः तदा त्वामुद्दामप्रमदभरविद्योतिहृदया मुनीन्द्राः सान्द्राभिः स्तुतिभिरनुवन्नद्वरतनुम्
Padmajan, the second line, second word. Galadrakto Vaktrat.
Okay. Galadrakto Vaktrat.
Yeah.
त्वचिच्छन्दो रोमस्वपि कुशगणः सक्षूषि घृतं चतुर्होतारोऽघ्रौ सृगपि वदने चोदरयिडा ग्रहाजिह्वायां ते परपुरुषकर्णे च चमसाः विभो चमसः विभो सोमो वीर्यं वरदगलदेशेऽप्युपसदः मुनीन्द्रैरित्यादि स्तवनमुखरैर्मोदितमनाः महीयस्या मूर्त्या विमलतरकीर्त्या च विलसन् स्वदिष्ण्यं सम्प्राप्तः सुखरसविहारी मधुरिपो निरुन्ध्यारोगं मे सकलमपि वातालय पते श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः।
आय परब्रह्मणे नमः. दशकं 14 कपिलो वाक्यनं कपिल अवतारः समनुस्मृततावकाङ्घ्रियुग्मः समनुः पङ्कजं सम्भवाङ्गजन्मा निजमन्तरमन्तरायहीनं चरितं ते कथयन् सुखं निनाय समये खलु तत्र कर्दमाख्यो द्रुहिणच्छाय भवस्तदीयवाचा धृतसर्गरसो निसर्गरम्यं भगवंस्त्वामयुतं समासिषेवे गरुडोपरि कालमेघ्रकम्रं विलसत्केलिसरोजपाणिपद्मम् हसितोल्लसिताननं विभो त्वं वपुराविष्कुरुषे स्म कर्दमाय स्तुवते पुलकावृताय तस्मै मनुपुत्रीं दयितां न वापि पुत्रीः कपिलं च सुतं स्वमेव पश्चात् स्वगतिं चाप्यनुगृह्य निर्गतो भूः न मनुष्यतरूपया महिष्या गुणवत्या सुतया च देवहूत्या भवदीरितनारदोपदिष्टः समगात् कर्दममागतिप्रतीक्षम् मनुनो प्रहृतां च देवहूतिं तरुणीरत्नमवाप्य कर्दमोऽसौ भवदर्चननिर्वृतोऽपि तस्यां दृढशुश्रूषणया दधौ प्रसादं न पुनस्त्वदुप न स पुनस्त्वदुपासनप्रभावात् दयिता कामकृते कृते विमाने वनिता कुलसङ्कुलो नवात्मा व्यहरद्देवपथेषु देवहूत्या शतवर्षमथ व्यतीत्य सोऽयं नवकन्याः समवाप्य धन्यरूपाः वनयानसमुद्यतोऽपि कान्ता हृतकृत्वज्जननोत्सुकोऽन्यवासीत् निजभर्तृगिरा भवन्निवे निजभर्तृगिरा भवन्निषेवा निरतायामथ देवदेवहूत्यां कपिलस्त्वमजायथा जनानां प्रथयिष्यन् परमात्मतत्त्वविद्यां वनमेयुषि कर्दमे प्रसन्ने मत सर्वस्वमुपातिशन् जनन्यै कपिलात्मकवायुमन्दिरेश त्वरितं त्वं परिपाहि मां गदौघात्. श्रीकृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः.
Both of you did a very nice job. Okay. We'll start with 15 today, which is a continuation of 14 as well. First off, Minu, you can be a student, and Krishnanji, you can be a student first off. So, Dashakam 15 is Kapilopadeshaha, which is the Upadesham. First one was the Kapilopakyana, which is the birth of incarnation of Kapila. This is the actual Upadesham that happens in 15. So, stanza 1. मतिरिह गुणसक्ता बन्धकृत्तेष्वसक्ता तु अमृतकृदुपरुन्धे भक्तियोगस्तु सक्तिं महदनुगमलभ्या भक्तिरेवात्र साध्या कपिलतनुऋते त्वं देवहूत्यै न्यगाधीः. So this last line repeats for the first 8 stanzas. So this is only 3 lines new every stanza, right? This one. So the Upadesham, right, has been given by different people gods, goddesses to different people. Of course, Krishna during Bhagavad Gita, during Varaha Avataram also there was Upadeshan to Bhuma Devi, etc. But when it comes to giving teachings, advice, it doesn't matter what the age is or what the relation is to the other person, because in this case, the son, the incarnation of Kapila, is going to be giving the Upadesham to his mother Devahuti, right? So we saw last time how when Kardama leaves for the forest, so at the time Kapila and Devahuti are there, and when Kapila is just there with Devahuti, one day Devahuti is very sick of all the problems she's having, right, which very similar to everything that we have, and she goes to Kapila and says that what, this all these material senses, which are the five senses that I'm having, plus your mind, which is the sixth one. So he says, because of all these senses, I'm having a lot of disturbances in my body and mind, right? And because of these senses, I'm actually falling into the state of ignorance. I'm not able to get the ultimate truth. So she says, you have to educate me on this, which was the purpose of the incarnation of Kapila. So Kapila, this is a very, what you call very theoretical, philosophical chapter, because in Srimad Bhagavatam, it goes over 9 chapters. So around 450 to 500 stanzas is Kapilopadesham, right? But Bhattripada has condensed it into like 8 stanzas. So we'll kind of just hit over the surface of this. So Kapila starts with the description of the Sankhya philosophy. Now, the Sankhya philosophy is a little bit misunderstood because there are two branches of the Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya just means numbers, and we'll see what those numbers are in the next stanza. But within the Sankhya philosophy itself, there is one branch of Sankhya philosophy which tells that the source is all driven by this Bhagavan. That is one. The second Sankhya philosophy says all of what you are saying is true, except that there is no Bhagavan. It is all just nature. It just happens by nature, right? But what happens is pretty consistent, which we'll see only in the second stanza. But the only slight difference between what Kapila is teaching is saying that this is all driven by a Bhagavan. The other version says there is no Bhagavan, it just naturally happens, right? That's a difference. So when somebody says Sankhya. So here it directly addresses the first question by saying that when any of your senses, right, when let's say you like Mysore Pak, when you eat Mysore Pak, you take a first bite, you're really enjoying it. I now come and grab away that Mysore Pak from you, you're going to feel sad, right? Because that Mysore Pak, when you were eating, your sense, your taste buds are kicking in, you're beginning to feel happy because that's your favorite sweet. I take away what you like, you are now going to feel sad. So Kapila explains that in the same ways, when your five senses are attached to something, then when you remove that object out, then those senses are going to feel sad, and that triggers unhappiness. These five senses can be controlled. The sixth one, which you cannot control, is your mind. Because I don't have to physically give you Mysore Pak. You can see one of the YouTube reel of somebody making Mysore Pak, and then you wish you had that Mysore Pak. So even though you don't have it, even though you are not making it, you wish that you had it, and because you don't have it, you feel sad, right? So that mind can trigger those things. So what Kapila is saying in a very simple way is, don't worry about your senses getting attached to things. The things are not the problem. Because even when the thing is not there, you can feel sad because your mind is getting attached to it, right? So he says, practically speaking, he says you separate your mind away. If you can control your mind to not get attached, just like how your mind wants to get attached, he says you will not feel sad. Because he says the mind is the ultimate root cause of all unhappiness. It is not your other person who is causing you unhappiness. It is not another object which is causing you unhappiness. He says very simply, it's your mind. If you can tell your mind not to feel sad, your mind will not feel sad. So that is how he says. So then the question comes is, okay, how do I not tell my mind to do this? Right? He says the only way, he says, is in this bhakti revatra sadhi. He says devotion, when you start increasing your devotion, he says the other things will start coming down. So you think of it, your mind as a fixed space. And then if you don't have devotion, he says your mind is going to be filled with a lot of other things. He says you bombard that mind with devotion, gradually all the other things will start coming down. So that is how he starts this, right? And the next stanza, very beautifully, he explains, scientifically how to do that, right? Or, theoretically, practically how to do that. But anyway, Kapila Tanu Rititvam. So you, O Guruvayurappa, who's in the form of Kapila, explained this to Devahuti. Nyagadihi means instructed. So you instructed this to Devahuti. So Matiriha Guna Sakta Bhanda Kriteshva Saktatu. So you have to put a tu at the end of that line and comma. Kriteshva Saktatu, comma. Next line, the twa that is there, it will become a. Amrita Kridhu Parundhe Bhakti Yogastu Saktim Mahadanugama Labhya Bhakti Revatra Sadhya, comma. Kapila Tanurititvam Devahutye Nyagadihi. Matiriha Gunasakta Bhanda Kriteshva tu Amrita Kridu Parundhe Bhakti Yogastu Saktim Mahadanugama Labhya Bhakti Revatra Sadhya Kapila Tanurititvam Devahutye Nyagadihi. Yeah,
मदिरिह गुणसक्ता बन्धकृत्तेष्वसक्तात् अमृतकृतुपरुन्धे भक्तियोगस्तु शक्तिं महदनुगमलभ्या भक्तिरेवाद्रसाध्या कपिलधनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः. 2 times or once?
2 times, yeah.
मदिरिह गुणसक्ता बन्धकृत्तेष्वसक्तात् अमृतकृतुपरुन्धे भक्तियोगस्तु शक्तिं महदनुगमलभ्या भक्तिरेवाद्रसाध्या कपिलधनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः.
And the first line, last letter on the Saktatu, T-U, T-H-U.
Saktatu.
Okay, in the Saktat, I heard it. Saktatu, that's okay. Okay, go ahead, Christian ji.
I have a question, Rajesh ji. Last line. Is that Kapila Tanuriti or Kapila Danuriti?
Ta. First ta in Sanskrit. Kapila Tanuriti.
Tanuriti, yeah.
Matiriha Gunasakta Banda.
You're on mute.
Matiriha Gunasakta Banda Kutvesha Saktadu Amrda Kutu Parundhe Bhakti Yogastu Saktim Mahadanugamag Labhya Bhakti Revatra Sadhya Kabila Tanuridistvam Devahutye Negatihi Matiriha Gunasakta Banda Krutteshu Saktadu Amrda Kutu Parundhe Bhakti Yogastu Saktim Madanugamalabhya Bhakti Revatra Sadhya Kabilatanuruditvam Devahutye Negatihi.
The third line, first word, Mahadanu Gamalabhya.
Mahadanu.
Yeah.
Gamalabhya.
Stanza 2. Prakriti Mahada Hankarascha Matrascha Bhutani Api Hridapi Dashakshi Purushah Panchavimshah Iti Vidita Vibhago Muchyate Sau Prakritya Kapilatanuritetvam Devahutye Nyagatihi. So, a little bit, we'll go back to what we learned in our fifth Dashakam about that Purusha and Prakriti, because that was how the cosmos was formed. And Kapila is saying the same thing, it is no different, right? So, and the Sankhya philosophy also says the same thing. It says there is a Purusha. Now, like I said, the two fundamental differences is in the Kapila's thing, it says the Purusha is that supreme divine or the Paramatma or what we call as the Brahman. That is the Purusha. But in the atheist version of Sankhya philosophy, Purusha is just something that is there, right? Nature or something. Now, then there is a Mula Prakriti, which we saw. The Mula means the root from which things can happen, and Prakriti is all the material nature and the material energy which is there, which we said initially is that unmanifested. It has not taken any manifestable physical form yet, and it's also undifferentiated. Like we said, it doesn't have any shape or it is not any item. So that Mula Prakriti is there. So that's how it starts with, which is how Dashakam 5 also started with. Then it says, and very same thing happens. He says that Mula Prakriti, it has 24 elements in it. The first element is just the Prakriti, which is that Mula Prakriti, which is completely unmanifested, undifferentiated, which is there, which everything is in there. When that begins to change, so that first state is called just Prakriti. It's the same thing, except that one of them is not undergoing any change, the other one is beginning to undergo change. So that is the first one, Prakriti. Then we also saw in the second five how Mahat, which is the intellect, is getting created. So Prakriti, Mahat is second. Third is the ahankaram, the sense of ego, the context of I, which then separates all the universal consciousness, which is one, from each of us beginning to think we are individual, right? So that ahankaram is one. Then there is the manas, which is there. So the prakriti, the intellect, then the ahankaram and manas. So four you have right now. Then we saw the five organs of knowledge, jnanendriyangal, which is the eyes, ear, nose, tongue, and all of that stuff. Then there are the five organs of action, like speech, hand, legs, and genitals, all of the five, which is the 10 dasakshis, 10 organs. And then you have the tanmatram. We saw the sound, smell, that part. We spoke about how the from the sound comes space. We saw how the pancha bhutam and the pancha tanmatram are connected. So you add all of these things, it comes to 24. So he says the one who realizes that these 24 elements are coming from this prakriti, which is an independent object, material nature, and the purusha is completely different as the 25th. So the one who's realized that these two are separate entities is the first step of realization, and we'll see why it is in the third stanza. But that is the core essence of the Sankhya philosophy. You can go to YouTube and you can also do some research on it. It'll start giving you like a chart. It says these 24 elements are on the right side, which is coming from Mula Prakriti. Then on the left side, there is a Purusha. He says the one who understands that these two are separate and not connected to each other will be freed from bondage, and we'll see why it is in the next stanza. But that is the definition of the Sankhya philosophy, which Kapila is teaching. So Prakriti, Mahad Ahankarascha. So Mahad Ahankarascha. Okay, two different words, but you can say it together. Prakriti, Mahad Ahankarascha, Matrascha, Bhutani. So put a short E at the end of that line, comma, Bhutani. Next line, the Nya becomes A. Api Hridapi Dashakshi Purushaha. Put the F to join. Purusha Panchavimshaha. Panchavimshaha means the 25th. So the Purusha is the 25th element. Purusha Panchavimshaha. Iti Vidita Vibhago Muchyate Sau Prakritya, comma. I think some books may have Prakrityaha. If you have it, just remove it. Prakritya, comma. Kapila Tanurititvam Devahutye Nyagadihi. प्रकृति महदहंकाराश्च मात्राश्च भूतानि अपि हृदपि दशाक्षी पूरुषः पंचविंशः इति विदित विभागो मुच्यते सौ प्रकृत्या कपिलतनुरिते त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगाधीः
प्रकृतिमहदहङ्कारश्च मात्राश्च भूतानि अभिहृदभिदशाक्षी पुरुषः पञ्चविंशः इति विदितविभागो मुच्यते सौ प्रकृत्या कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः Purushaf. Okay, sorry, Purushan solta. Sorry. Prakriti mahadahankarascha matrascha bhutani abhihrudabi shakshi purushaf panchavimshah iti vidita vibhago muchyate so prakritya kapilatanurati tvam devahutyainikadhihi.
प्रकृति महदहंकारश्च मात्राश्च भूतानि अभिहृदभितसाक्षि पुरुषः पञ्चविंशः इति विदितविभागो मुच्यते सौ प्रकृत्या कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्येन्यगादिः प्रकृति महदहंकारश्च मात्राश्च भूतानि अभिहृदभितसाक्षि पुरुषः पञ्चविंशः इति विदितविभागो मुच्यते सौ प्रकृत्या कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्येन्यगादिः
प्रकृतिगतगुणौघैः Najyate purushohyam yadi tu sajati tasyam tadgunastam bhajeran madanu bhajana tattva lochanai sapyapeyat kapilatanurite tvam devahutye nyagatihi. He says, we saw you keep Purusha on the left side, you keep the other 24 elements of the Mula Prakriti on the right side. And says the Purusha by default, like we said, the Brahman, it is not tainted, it's not attached to any of these things, right? It's just a witness to all of these things. That's a supreme consciousness that is there. And all the other problems we have, whether it be you're feeling hungry, you're feeling thirsty, you are having sorrow, the old age, death, everything that is happening is a result of these 24 elements which are on the right side. When this Purusha on the left is not attached to the things on the right, then that Purusha is the Paramatma. Because the Paramatma is not bound by any of these things. It is not bound. The Paramatma doesn't feel hunger. It doesn't feel sad. It doesn't have any of these things because the Sankhya philosophy says the Purusha on the left side is independent of the right side. But that Purusha, that soul which comes from the Purusha, when it attaches itself to the Prakriti, because it thinks that I'm different from the Purusha. So when we think I'm different from the Purusha and we attach ourselves to these elements of the Prakriti, then that is the Jivatma. So that is a simple definition between the Paramatma and the Jivatma according to Sankhya philosophy. Is when the Purusha is attached to the elements of the Prakriti, it's a Jivatma. When it is not attached, it's the Paramatma. So if the Jivatma has to become a Paramatma, you have to detach yourself from the elements of the Prakriti. That's what it says. So you have to realize. So there are two ways of doing it. One is you actually understand this very deeply scientifically what that means. So you don't attach yourself to the Prakriti. Now that you have to go through a lot of deep intellectual, spiritual you have to think through it, all of that, and then you will be able to understand it through the jnana yogam. So you will not get yourself attached to Prakriti. That's one way. Or even Kapila says it's a very complicated way for you to understand all those things. So he says, Madanu Bhajana Tattva Lochanaihi. The one who's constantly contemplating on me, which is the Kapila or Narayana, and says, you constantly worship me and do all this, gradually you will get yourself separated out of the Prakriti. And by complete getting yourself separated out of the Prakriti, you merge with the Purusha. So he says that Bhakti Margam is simple, and if you cannot do it, at least follow people who do it, and you will gradually get there. So that is the explanation that is given here of how to not get attached to the Prakriti elements. Because once you get attached to it, then you will experience all the problems we are experiencing right now. So Prakriti Gata Gunaugaihi. So put a visarga and comma, Gunaugaihi. Next, on the Najyate, there is a ir that will goes away. Najyate Purushoyam, comma. Yadi tu sajati tasyam, put a comma. Tad gunastam bhajeran. When you get attached, it will all stick to you. That's what he said. Tad gunastam bhajeran. Madanu bhajana Tattvalochanaihi, put a is to join, Tattvalocanais sapyapeyat, comma, Kapilatanurrititvam devahutye nyagadihi. Prakriti ghata gunhaugaihi najyate purushoyam yadi tu sajati tasyam tadgunastam bhajeran madanu bhajana tattvalocanais sapyapeyat Kapilatanurite tvam devahutye
प्रकृतिगतगुणौघैः नाज्यते पूरुषोऽयं यदि तुत्सजति तस्यां तद्गुणास्तं भजेरन् मदनुभजनतत्त्वा लोचनैः साभ्यपेयात् कपिलतनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः प्रकृतिगतगुणौघैः नाज्यते पूरुषोऽयं यति तु सजति तस्यां तद्गुणास्तं भजेरन् मदनुभजन तत्त्वा लोचनैः साप्यपेयात् कपिलतनुरुतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः.
Rajesh ji, one small question. What does this Devahutya Nyagadi means? Because I see that repeating towards the end of...
Yeah, so Kapila Tanu iti Tvam. So you, O Guru Ayappa, who's in the Tanu, who's in the form or body of Kapila, to Devahuti, you instructed or you said this, right? So this is Upadesham that Kapila is giving to Devahuti, right? So the first 3 lines, and this is the instruction you gave Devahuti. So Nyagadi, he is to instruct or to preach.
Okay. Thank you.
प्रकृतिगतगुणैघैः न्याच्यते पूरुषोऽयं यदि तु सदजितस्यां तद्गुणास्तं भजेरन् मदनुभजनतत्त्वालोचनैः साप्यपेयात् कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यै न गातिः प्रकृतिगतगुणैघैः न्याच्यते पूरुषोऽयं यदि तु सजति तस्यां तद्गुणास्तं भजेरन् मदनुभजनतत्त्वालोचनैः साप्यपेयात् कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यै न गादिः.
The first line, Gunau Gaihi, there is a visarga, okay? Prakriti Gata Gunau Gaihi.
प्रकृतिगतगुणैः.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Stand support. विमलमतिरुपातैः आसनाध्यैर्मदङ्घं गरुडसमधिरूढं दिव्यभूषायुधाङ्कं रुचितुलिततमालं शीलयेतानुवेलं कपिलतनुरिते त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगाधीः. So little bit of Ashtanga yoga is also coming here. Like I said, this instructions that Kapila gave, like 500 to 600 stanzas of instructions. One entire chapter is actually devoted to how the fetus develops in the womb of a mother and how it every day, every week, every month, how it progresses. So Kapila tells everything that is possible to his mother. So one of the things he's saying here is how do you cleanse your mind, which again he's going to the Dasakam 4 of Ashtanga Yoga. He says you clean your mind, you get your senses under control, and then you have to meditate. And then he says you meditate on my form, which is Garuda Samadhi Rudam. Is imagine me sitting on Garuda, me being the dark blue and gray, dark gray in color, holding Chatur Bhujam and holding all of the Shankha, Chakram, Gada, Padmam and all of that. And then you constantly contemplate on me. And the Tamala is a type of tree, Tamala, which is like a little bit of the dark blue gray hue that is there. So he says you essentially follow that Ashtanga Yoga, you meditate on my form, and gradually when you start doing that, you will be able to separate yourself from getting attached to the elements of the Prakriti. So Vimala Matirupataihi. So the ra that is there, remove it, put a visarga comma, Matirupataihi. Next word will become a. Asanadhyir madangam, comma, Garuda samadhi rudham, divya bhusha yudankam, ruchi tulita tamalam, sheelayetanu velam, comma, kapilatanurutitvam devahutye nyagadihi. Vimalamatirupaataihi asanadhyirmadangam Garuda Samadhi-rudham Divya-bhusha-yudhankam Ruchitulita-tamalam Sheelayeta-anuvelam Kapila-tanurite-tvam Devahutye-nyagadi.
विमलमधिरुपाद्यैः आसनाद्यैर्मदंशं गरुडसमधिरूढं दिव्यभूषायुधाङ्गं रुचितुलिततमालं शीलयेतानुवेलं कपिलतनुरुतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः विमलमतिरुपाद्यैः आसनाद्यैर्मदंशं गरुडसमधिरूढं दिव्यभूषायुधाङ्गं रुचितुलिततमालं शीलयेतानुवेलं कपिलतनुरुतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः.
The first line, last word, madangham.
Madamsham.
First ga, madangham.
மதங்கம் இங்க ஷம்மன் கொடுத்திருக்கு. ஓகே
Okay.
மதங்கம் அது
Madangam.
ஓ க ஓகே மதங்கம்.
Rajesh, one more question. Vimala Mati Rupa Taihi, or is it a ya sound? Is it Tiaihi?
It and the ta. Vimala Mati Rupa Taihi. Double th. It and the ta.
Yeah, that's a Tai, right? Not a Ti. There's no ya.
Not a.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
மீன் உங்களோட தேயின் இருக்கா, y இருக்கா?
Yeah. Why? Yeah.
Vimalamatirupadhyaihi.
Okay, so there's no ya there. It's just double tha. Bimala mati rupat taihi. So double tha, it and a tha. Okay, no ya there.
विमलमतिरुपात्तैः आसनाद्दैर्मदङ्कम् गरुडसमधिरूढम् दिव्यभूषायुधाङ्कम् रुजितुतिलतमालम् शीलयेत्तानुवेलम् कपिलतनुरुदित्वम् देवहूत्यैन्यकातिः विमलमतिरुपात्तैः आसनाद्दैर्मदङ्कम् गरुडसमधिरूढम् दिव्यभूषायुधाङ्कम् रुजितुतिलतमालयम् शीलयेतानुवेलम् कपिलतनुरुदित्वम् देवहूत्यैनकातिः.
The third line, first word, ruchi tulita tamalam.
रुचितुलिततमालम्.
Yeah. Stanza 5. Mama guna gana leela karnanaihi kirtanadhyaihi maisura saridhoga prakyachittaanuvrittihi bhavati parama bhaktihi sahi mrityor vijetri kapilatanurrititvam devahutyainyakatihi. So some of these things are repeating, which we saw earlier, which is going to come now. Again in 90 Dashakams, the whole thing is going to come about the three paths. So if you are intellectually inclined and you're able to go understand what this Prakriti is, what this Purusha is, how to get not attached to it, you go through the Jnana Margam, you can always take that approach. Or he says, if you want to go through the yoga approach of Ashtanga Yoga, like it is said in the previous stanza, we saw how complicated that Ashtanga Yoga is, and you go through that in Dashakam 4, and you imagine this form, you will get liberated. If you want to get out of the Mrityor Vijetri, if you want to overcome death. The third, he says the Bhakti Yoga, he says that Bhakti Yoga is also an option, but it's not like the Bhakti, like the interrupted Bhakti which we have, which is like we pray for some time, we take a pause, we do other things, we come back and pray. He says the Bhakti has to flow like Sura Sari Dhoga, like as if when you look at the Ganges and the Ganges is continuously flowing, the Ganges doesn't stop at any point till it merges. So the flow bhakti has to be uninterrupted flow of bhakti that has to be there. So it cannot be stopping and pausing and continuing at any point in time. It should be uninterrupted flow of bhakti if you have. Then the bhakti margam can also get you to overcome the mrityor vijetri. And the bhavati parama bhakti, he says, yes, with the extra highest level of devotion that you need to have, then you can overcome. You don't have to worry about all these complexities of it. You don't have to do the ashtanga yoga. None of that is actually important. And he says, how you get that is mama guna gana leela karnanehi. You sing about anything related to God, he says. He says you don't even have to say Krishna, Krishna. You talk about things associated with Krishna as an example, or you hear about things associated with Krishna. He says you just listen to things in the periphery of me or constantly talk about it or sing about it. He says kirtanadyehi. You do, chant or whatever your approach is. He says that's okay. Any of that is fine because that will lead you to bhakti, and that has to be that uninterrupted flow of bhakti. So, mama guna gana leela karnanaihi, comma, kirtanadhyehi, comma again. Next line on top of that word mai, there is a ir that will go away. Mai sura saridhoga prakya chittanu bhavati parama bhaktihi, comma, sahi mrityor vijetri, long e, kapilatanuruditvam devahutyai nyagadihi. Mama gunagana leela karnanaihi kirtanadhyaihi maisura saridhoga prakyachittaanuvrittihi bhavati parama bhaktihi sahi mrityor vijetri kapilatanuruditvam devahutyai nyagadihi.
मम गुणगणलीला कर्णनैः कीर्तनाद्यैः मयि सुरसरिदोगप्रत्यचित्तानुवृत्तिः भवति परमभक्तिः सा हि मृत्योर्विजेत्री कपिलतनुरुतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः मम गुणगणलीला कर्णनैः कीर्तनाद्यैः मैसुरसरिदोगप्रज्ञचित्तानुवृत्तिः भवति परमभक्तिः सा हि मृत्योर्विजेत्री कपिलतनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः
मम गुणगणलीला कर्णनैः कीर्तिनाद्यैः मयिसुरसदरिधोगप्रख्यचित्तानुवृत्तिः भवति परमभक्तिः सा हि मृत्योर्विजेत्री कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्येन गादिः
The
मम
second line, Krishnaji, Mai Sura Saridhoga.
सुरसरिदोघ मम गुणगणलीला कर्णनैः कीर्तिनाद्यैः मयिसुरसरिधोगप्रख्यचित्तानुवृत्तिः भवति परमभक्तिः सा हि मृत्योर्विजेत्री कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्येन गादिः
That's 6. Ahaha bahula himsa sanchitartaihi kutumbam pratidhinamanupushnan strijito balalali vishatihi grihasakto yatanam mayya bhaktah kapilatanuritetvam devahutyainyagadihi. He says, the one who is my abhaktaha, the one who has absolutely no devotion to me, and who does adharma, which means one who in the context of supporting themselves or in the context of supporting their family and children or feeding and bringing them up, earns wealth through cruel and unfair means, right? So one who is actually greedy and one who is actually entering the wrong ways to earn money, but just to support their family and children, even then, or that, or the one who is, it is one who is easily falling for getting attached to material possessions and house and all of those things, and even not just material possessions, one who is also attached too much, right, to family and all of those things. Anyone who's in this criteria, it says it's very hard for them to kind of overcome these things, because you have to give up all of those things at some point, and until and unless you give it up, it says you will always be in the cycle, you will always be born again, because you have to eventually give all of these things up, right? So that is what he's saying, my abhaktaha, anyone who's in any of this situation is constantly going to be born again and never going to overcome the cycle of birth and death. Ahaha bahula himsa sanchitartaihi, comma, kutumbam, and then put a plus, kutumbam pratidhinam anupushnan, every day taking care of the family. That's what he's saying. Kutumbam pratidhinam anupushnan, comma, strijito balalali विशति हि गृहसक्तो यातनां मय्य भक्तः कम कपिलतनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगादीः अहह बहुलहिंसा सञ्चितार्थैः कुटुम्बं प्रतिदिनमनुपुष्णन् स्त्रीजितो बाललाली विशति हि गृहसक्तो यातनां मय्य भक्तः कपिलतनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगादीः
अहह बहुलहिंसा सञ्चितार्थैः कुटुम्बं प्रतिदिनमनुपुष्णन् स्त्रीजितो बाललाली विशतिः गृहसक्तो यादनां मय्यभक्तः कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः अहह बहुलहिंसा सञ्चितार्थैः कुटुम्बं प्रतिदिनमनुपुष्णन् स्त्रीजितो बाललाली विशतिः गृहसक्तो यादनां मय्यभक्तः कपिलतनुरतित्वं देवहूत्यैन्यकाधीः
अहह बहुलसिंसा सञ्चितार्थैः कुटुम्बं प्रतिदिनम् अनुपुष्णन् श्रीजितो बाललाली विशतिः गृहसक्तो यातनां मय्यभक्तः कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्यैन गादिः अहह बहुलहिंसा सञ्चितार्थै कुटुम्बं प्रतिदिनम् अनुपुष्णन् स्त्रीजितो बाललाली वशदिः गृहसक्तो यातनां मय्यभक्तः कपिलतनुरुदित्वं देवहूत्यैन गादिः
Especially that first line, Sanchitartaihi, there is a comma after that word, okay?
Sanchitaktaihi.
And then the third line, first word is Vishati.
Vishatihi.
Yeah. Stanza 7. युवति झटर खिन्नो जात बोधोप्यकाण्ठे प्रसवगलित बोध पीडयोल्लङ्घ्य बाल्यं पुनरपि बत मुह्यत्येव तारुण्यकाले कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगादीः. So here, very similar to what Adi Shankaracharya said, even Kapila goes into extreme detail about 20 stanzas or 15 stanzas around what happens to a child when it is in the womb of a mother. It says when you're in the womb of a mother, the mother eats all these salty things and spicy things because the mother feels like eating it. But it says at the end of the day, the child, when it is living there, it's a hell for the child in the womb. It says the child is constantly suffering in the womb. And if the child is lucky enough or blessed enough, most of them it says it actually then prays to Bhagavan, saying it remembers hundreds of its previous births and saying, I've committed all these sins in my previous birth, and my goal in this life, it takes it swears saying that in this life, I'm not going to commit any of these mistakes, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to eventually merge with you a lot, right? That is a vow it takes in the womb. But the moment it comes out of the womb, when the outside air hits the top of the head of the child, it completely forgets everything, right? So that's why one somebody was joking saying that when the child is born, the child cries because it's saying, "Oh my God, I forgot all of these things. I've come out right now. I'm now being born into this world. I don't want to be born in this world." And then since we all clap saying, "Okay, the child has been born," right? We're all super happy, but the child is so upset because it doesn't want to be born because it knows once it is born, child in diaper, it cannot talk in that age, then when it's in a small age has to go to the school, all these non-stop pressures, right? Because you look at our life, every point in time you're always struggling. So here, like what Shankaracharya said in Bhaja Govindam, here Kapila is also saying the same thing, that knowledge is there when you're in the Jhatara Kinno, when you're in the womb of the mother, you had the knowledge when you could not have put it to use. But when you come out, you don't have that knowledge, unfortunately. You forget everything. And then you go through the same cycle again and again, and you repeat the same mistakes, and again you're born again, right? So that's what he's saying. He's saying at the womb, the child has all the information at that point. So Yuvati Jathara Kinno Jata Bodopya Kande, comma, Prasava Galita Bodaha, put the F to join, Bodah, Pidayolangya Balyam, Punarapi Bata, Muhyatyeva, so half, Muhyatyeva Tarunya Kale, comma, Kapila Tanurititvam Devahutya Nyagadihi. Just one time we'll do it and then we'll switch. युवति जठरखिन्नो जातबोधोऽप्यकाण्ठे प्रसवगलितबोधः पीडयोल्लङ्घ्य बाल्यम् पुनरपि बत मुह्यत्येव तारुण्यकाले कपिलतनुरिते त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगाधीः.
युवति जठरखिन्नो जातबोधोऽप्यकाण्डे प्रसवकलितबोधः पीटयोल्लङ्घ्य बाल्यं पुनरपि पदमुह्यत्येव तारुण्यकाले कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यैन्यगाधीः.
युवति जठरखिन्नो जातबोधोऽप्यकाण्ठे प्रसवगलितबोधवत्पीडयोल्लङ्घ्य बाल्यम् पुनरभिवदमुह्यत्येव्यतारुण्यकाले कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्येन गातिः. युवति जठरखिन्नो जातबोधोऽप्यकाण्ठे प्रसवगलितबोधवत्पीडयोल्लङ्घ्य बाल्यम् पुनरपि वद मुह्यते तारुण्यकाले कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्येन गातिः.
Right, we'll switch here. Padmaja Mekundam, we can be a student, and Lalita, we can be a student. Lalita Murli. Stanza 8. पितृसुरगणयाजी धार्मिको यो गृहस्थः स च निपतति काले दक्षिणाद्वोपगामी मयि निहितमकामं कर्म तूदक्पथार्थं Kapila tvam devahutye nyagahihi. So, driving back from St. Louis last evening, I was telling, for 2.5 hours, we were talking on this one topic. And suddenly I was telling people that I realized grabbing a coffee from Starbucks somewhere on the way. And the next time we realized where we were in Bolingbrook. So 2.5 hours just flew by on one topic, right? And the topic is, how do you cleanse your karma, right? And here it says, you do all the good things. Pitris, you go do offer all the rites that you're doing to your Pitris, to the suras, to the gods, you perform all these homam, you do all these great things, right? And one, grihastaha, even a person who is a family man, family woman, whoever that is, who's doing all the right things, right? He says, even that person, when they die, they go through the dhumradi margam, which is the path of smoke, even though you earned all good karmas. That is because you still have karmas. So you are going to be born again, right? So like we saw in that Dasakam 4 also, you have to go through the path of light, which is the northern path, to get complete liberation. When you go through the southern path, Dakshinadvopagami, which is called the Dhumra Margam, the path of smoke, because even if you have good karmas, you are going to be born again to enjoy those good karmas. And then you born again, and you may probably accumulate bad karmas in the next birth by mistake, right? So he says that that's how the cycle is always repeating. The only way to get rid of it is, it says, completely the one who is doing all this and who performs desire, any action you perform, if you do not have a desire on the outcome, which means don't expect any thanks. If you cook something, anything good you do, don't expect anybody to say thank you to you, because you're expecting something in return, right? You should, or anything you do, you have to surrender. So it's not just saying kayena vacha manasendriyarva at the end of it, truly meaning kayena vacha manasendriyarva, right? And only when you come to that state, then you are not attaching any karmas onto yourself. And he says that is only way. You have to make that balance zero. It cannot be like I have 50 negative, I have 75 positive, so I'm good. It's no positive, negative balancing out. Both has to be zero, right? So only when you get to that state of zero, it says then you are not taking any rebirth. So that person will go through the northern path. Pitru Sura Gana Yaji Dharmiko Yo Grihastaha, Sacha Nipatati Kale Dakshinat Vopagami Mai Nihitam Akamam Karma Tudak Pathartham, Kapila Tanuriditvam Devahutye Nyagadihi. Pitrasura Ganayaji Dharmiko Yo Grihastaha Sacha Nipatati Kale Dakshinat Vopagami Mai Nihitam Akamam Karma Tudak Pathartham Kapila Tanuriditvam Devahutye Nyagadihi.
Pitrusuragan.
Padmaja Mekundamandiya.
Yeah. Pitrusuragan. Sorry.
Rare question, sorry to interrupt. So, the third line, karma dutak, is there a ik there?
Yeah. Tudak Padartham. Ik.
पितृसुरगणयाजी धार्मिको यो गृहस्थः स च निपतितति काले दक्षिणाद्धोपगामी मयि निहितमकामं कर्म तुदक्पथार्थं कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहुत्यैज्ञगादीः पितृसुरगणयाजी धार्मिको यो गृहस्थः स च निपतति काले दक्षिणाध्योपगामी मयि निहितमकामं कर्म तुदक्पथार्थं कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहुत्यैज्ञगादीः.
पितृसुरगणयाजी धार्मिको यो गृहस्थः स च निपतति काले दक्षिणाद्धोपगामी मयि निहितमकामं कर्म तुदक्पथार्थं कपिलतनुरितित्वं देवहूत्यै न्यगादीः. पितृसुरगणयाजी धार्मिको यो गृहस्थः स च निपतति काले दक्षिणाद्धोपगामी मयि निहितमकामं कर्म तु दक्पथार्थं कपिलतनुरिति त्वं देवहूत्यै न्यगादीः.
Just 9. Iti suvidhita vedyam devahe devahootim कृतनुतिमनुगृह्य त्वं गतो योगी संघैः विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्. So with this, like I said, it's very condensed in Narayaniyam, but eventually, after Kapila gave all the information to Devahuti, he then says, okay, my role has over. The purpose of this avataram was to, number one, teach Sankhya philosophy, to spread it, and also to remain for helping others. Because it is said that you went to the northeast, and then so the Bhadarika Ashrama is the area where Kapila is there. And it is said that even in Ramayana, there are references of people who went to Bhadarika Ashrama to meet Kapila. So it is said that he's still there along with Narayanayana, which we're going to see in the next chapter also. So he's still there educating people on this. So anyway, Devahuti, even though she got all this information and knowledge, she truly directly from the Lord's mouth. He says she eventually only got liberated to Bhakti Margam. So she did not get liberated to the Jnana Margam. Same with Arjuna. Arjuna heard Bhagavad Gita straight from Krishna's mouth. But we are going to see in the 88th Dasakam how he will still not truly understand it. Because that is a very complicated route. It's easy to understand it once, but it's very difficult to follow it. So even Devahuti eventually through Bhakti Yogena Mukta, through Bhakti Margam, Devahuti eventually gets liberated as well. And you, Kapila, you depart to the northeast. Iti suvidita vedyam deva he devahutim, kritanutim anugrihya, if you want to break that kritanutim anugrihya tvam gato yogi sangaihi vimala matirathasau bhakti yogena mukta, tvamapi jana hitartam vartase pragudichyam. Iti suvidita vedyam devahe devahutim kritanutim anugrihya tvam gato yogi sanghaihi विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्.
इति सुविदित वेद्यां देवहे देवहूतिं कृतनुतिमनुगृह्य त्वं गतो योगिसङ्घैः विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्. इति सुविदित वेद्यां देवहे देवहूतिं कृतनुतिमनुगृह्य त्वं गतो योगिसङ्घैः विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्.
इति सुविदितवेद्यां देवहे देवहूतिं कृतनुतिमनुगृह्य त्वं गतो योगिसङ्घैः विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्. इति सुविदितवेद्यां देवहे देवहूतिं कृतनुतिमनुगृह्य त्वं गतो योगिसङ्घैः विमलमतिरथासौ भक्तियोगेन मुक्ता त्वमपि जनहितार्थं वर्तसे प्रागुदीच्याम्.
ராஜேஷ் எனக்கு ஒரே ஒரு கொஸ்டின். தேர்ட் லைன் எண்ட்ல வந்து விசர்க்கம் உண்டா இல்லையா? முக்தா பக்கத்துல
முக்தா தான், there's no visarga there.
ஓகே சரி, thank you.
That's it. परम किमु बहुक्त्या त्वत्पदाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तद्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपाधत्स्व भक्तिं. Bhattacharya summarizes by saying there's no, what more is there to be said? You know, there's nothing more. You can keep arguing and discussing all of these things. So he says, only complete devotion to your feet, padam bhoja bhaktim, complete surrender to your feet is the one which is going to eliminate all the fears that we have and also eliminate all the desires we have, right? And fulfill all our desires, which is eventually to get liberated. So he says, oh, oh Guruvayarappa, please eradicate all the ailments, plus give me khalu dridham tvam, give me firm devotion to you. So I'm always, thinking and praying to you as well. परम किमु बहुक्त्या कम त्वत् पदाम्भोज भक्तिं कम सकल भय विनेत्रीं कम सर्व कामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं कम तत् विधूयामयान्मे कम गुरु पवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादत्स्व भक्तिम् परम किमु बहुक्त्या त्वत्पदाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तद्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादत्स्व भक्तिम्
परम किमु बहुक्त्या त्वत्पादाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तद्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादत्स्व भक्तिम् परम किमु बहुक्त्या त्वत्पदाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तद्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादत्स्व भक्तिम्
परम किमु बहुत्या त्वत्पदाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तद्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादस्त्व भक्तिम् परम किमु बहुत्या त्वत्पदाम्भोज भक्तिं सकल भय विनेत्रीं सर्वकामोपनेत्रीं वदसि खलु दृढं त्वं तत्विधूयामयान्मे गुरुपवनपुरेश त्वय्युपादस्त्व भक्तिम्
Krishnaaya Parabrahmane Namaha. So that completes Kapila Avataram and the Kapilopakyanam. So Dashakam 16 is Narayana Avatara Varnanam, Daksha Yaga Varnanam. So two different things there. Primarily Narayana Avataram. So like we said, at the beginning, one of the classes, we said that there are not just Dasavatarams, there are innumerable Avatarams, right? And we've already seen Kapila Avataram come, Naranarayana Avataram come. Next, Prithu is going to come, Rishabha Yogishwara is going to come. All of those are like partial incarnations, right? Which are there. So this is Naranarayana Avataram. Stanza 1. Daksho virinchatanayota manostanhujam labdva prasutimiha shodasha chapakanyah dharme trayodasha dadau pitrishu swadham cha swaham havir bhuji satim girishe twadhamshe. So we'll again take like one step back of the hierarchy. So from Brahma, when we saw all the Manasa Putras who came, so one of them who also came from Brahma was, Daksha. So if you remember that Dashakam, I think Dashakam 9, when it was there, Tasya, Tasargarasikasya, Marichiratrihi, when all of them were coming, Kratumani, Pulaha, Pulastya, Anga, Dajayata, Briguscha, Vasishta, Dakshav. So all of them are coming from Brahma, right? That's 10 in the Narada and all of them. So that Daksha, so he then marries the Swayambhuva Manu's daughter Prasuti. So if you remember, Devahuti in 14 got married to Kardama Prajapati. Swayambhuva Manu's daughter Devahuti married Kardama Prajapati. That's how Kapila came. So here, Daksha Prajapati, he marries Prasuti, who is the other daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. So to this Daksha and this Prasuti are born 16 daughters. So the 16 daughters, 13 daughters, they give it to Dharmadeva, who's also coming from Brahma. So like that's why I said you cannot think of them as sons, right? Because then it'll look like how is like the son marrying the other son's daughter and that daughter marrying another son. It'll get all complicated. So you have to imagine they're all coming from Brahma. So anyway, so that Dharmadeva gets 13 daughters married. Then Pitris, the one who's the leader of the Pitris, so he gets married to Swada, who's the other one daughter. And then Swaha gets married to Havir Bhuji. Havir Bhuji means the one who swallows your havis, which you put into the fire, which is Agni. So Agni is married to Swaha. That's when you're offering something into Agni, you say Swaha, because you're not just offering it to Agni, you're also offering to his wife Swaha. So Swaha gets married to Agni. And then Sati, Daksha's daughter, is getting married to Girishe, is getting married to Shiva. So that's how the 16 daughters of Daksha are getting married. 13 to Dharmadeva, and then 1 to Pitrus, 1 to Agni, and 1 to Shiva. So, Daksho Virincha Tanayota Manostanujam, Labdva Prasutimiha Shodasha Chapa Kanyaha Dharme Trayodasha Dadau, put a comma there, Pitrush Swadham Cha, Pitrushu Swadham Cha, Swaham Havir Bhuji Satim Girishe Twadamshe. Daksho Virincha Tanayota Manostanujam Labdva Prasutimiha Shodasha Chapa Kanyaha Dharme Trayodasha Dadau Pitrushu Swadham Cha Swaham Havir Bhuji Satim Girishe Twadamshe.
दक्षो विरिञ्च तनयोथ मनोस्तनूजां लब्ध्वा प्रसूतिमिह षोडश चापकन्याः धर्मे त्रयोदश ददौ पितृषु स्वधां च स्वाहां हविर्भुजि सतीं गिरिशे त्वदंशे दक्षो विरिञ्च तनयोध मनोस्तनूजां लब्ध्वा प्रसूतिमिह षोडश चापकन्याः धर्मे त्रयोदश ददौ पितृषु स्वधां च स्वाहां हविर्भुजि सतीं गिरिशे त्वदंशे.
दक्षो विरिञ्च तनयोनथ मनोस्तनूजां लब्ध्वा प्रसूतिमिह षोडश चापकन्याः धर्मे त्रयोदश ददौ पितृषु स्वदांश्च स्वाहां हविर्भुजि सतीं गिरिशे स्वदंसे. சாரி, அந்த ராகம் மறந்து போச்சு.
No problem. The third line la வந்து அந்த ததவுக்கு அப்புறம் there's a comma, okay? Third line la.
Yeah.
Daksho virincha tanayota manostanujam labdhva prasutimiha shodasha chapakanyaha.
दक्षो विरिञ्च तनयोनत मनोस्तनूजां लब्ध्वा प्रसूतिमिह षोडश चापकन्याः धर्मे त्रयोदश ददौ पितृषु स्वदांश्च स्वाहां हविर्भुजि सतीं गिरिशे त्वदंशे.
In the first line there, tanayo, you are adding an extra na there. Just tanayota.
Oh, okay, yeah. दक्षो विरिञ्च तनयोथ मनोस्तनूजां. Yeah, sorry.
Stanza 2. Murtir hi dharma grihini sushubhe bhavantam narayanam narasakam mahitanubhavam yajjanmaneh pramuditah kritaturya ghoshaha pushpotkaran prabhavushur nunuvusuraughaha. So out of the 13 daughters who got married to Dharmadeva, one of them's name was Murti. So to the Murti and Dharmadeva are born twins called Nara and Narayana. And we'll see who they are, why they are born later. But they are born as twins to the Murti and Dharmadeva. And of course, whenever incarnation like this happens, lot of the gods and everybody, Brahma, come to know about it. They know an incarnation is going to happen. So, of course, they all come and pay a visit to it. We'll see in Rishabha Yogeshwara's instance, Prithu's instance. So, anyway, they all come in and then they offer their, offer their happiness and they come to meet the incarnation of the Lord. Murtirhi dharma grihini long e sushuve bhavantam, comma, Narayanam Nara Sakam Mahitanubhavam Yaj Janmani Pramuditaha, put a ih to join, Pramuditah Krita Turya Ghoshaha, comma, Pushpotkaran Pravabrushur Nunuvuhu, put a is to join, Nunuvus Suraughaha. मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुशुभे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मने प्रमुदिताः कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रववृषुर्नुनुवुः सुरौघाः.
मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुषुवे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिताः कृततूर्यघोषाः. Can you say? Pushpotkaran pravrushur nunuvusuraughah.
That last line, second word, Padmaja Garu. Pravabrushur.
Last. Pravarushur. Yeah.
Pravabrushur. B. Brushur.
Vrishur. Pravavrishur. मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुशिवे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिताः कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रवृषुर्नुनुवुः सुरौघाः.
In that word, Pravabrushur.
Pravabrushur.
Yeah.
Pravabrushur.
मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुषुवे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिताः कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रववृषुर्नुनुवुः सुरौघाः. मूर्तिर्हि धर्मगृहिणी सुषुवे भवन्तं नारायणं नरसखं महितानुभावं यज्जन्मनि प्रमुदिताः कृततूर्यघोषाः पुष्पोत्करान् प्रववृषुर्नुनुवुः सुरौघाः.
दैत्यं सहस्रकवचं कवचैः परीतं साहस्रवत्सरतपः समराभिलव्यैः पर्याय निर्मित तपः समरौ भवन्तौ शिष्टैककङ्कटममुं न्यहतां सलीलम्. So this Nara-Narayana incarnation had two primary purposes. One of them is they are the greatest of saints, because later on we'll see so many of these people who will again go to Bhadarik Ashrama to go meet Nara and Narayana there. They're always still meditating. And they're one of those people who are still there, right? Like Kapila, they're still there. People go to get knowledge. That is one purpose, because they had very good control of their yogic powers, which we'll see a little bit in later. The second one is there was an asura called as Sahasra Kavacha. So Sahasra Kavacha, like Hiranyaksha, they all want immortality. So they all go to Brahma and say, we want immortality. And Brahma says, I cannot give you immortality, but you can put all bounding conditions. And the Sahasra Kavacha then says, okay, my condition is that somebody should have done penance for 1,000 years, and then they can battle me. That's, you have to do penance for 1,000 years to even battle me. And then if they can battle me for 1,000 years, then one of my kavacham will go away. And then I have 1,000 such kavachams. So Sahasra Kavacham, because his point is 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, it will just keep going on forever, right? Nobody will be able to get rid of him. So that was the boon he had. So now this Nara and Narayana are born together because they are kind of going to tag team on this, right? So when Narayana is already born, Narayana already is coming with the yogic power. So the first 1,000 years, Nara is sitting and meditating. Well, Narayana is fighting that battle against the Sahasra Kavacha, removing one Kavacham. In the next 1,000 years, Nara is batting the Sahasra Kavacha and getting another Kavacham out. So all the odd numbers are battles are done by Narayana. All the even numbers of Kavachams are battled by Nara. So with this, they go remove 99 Kavachams of Sahasra Kavacha and one Kavacham is finally left. Now, there is a long story as to why that Kavacham does not take 1,000 years to get rid of. I know Minu knows the answer to this question because last time Ning answered Panel Minu. So I'll ask this, I remember that. So this time I'll ask the question to the group. Anyone tell me how the 1,000th Kavacham of Sahasra Kavacha was removed? I gave the hint in the question itself. No, nobody remembers Mahabharata. Who had a Kavacham in Mahabharata?
Oh, with the Kundala and the
Karnam.
Karna.
Was it
Karna.
last
Yeah,
by
yeah.
Karna.
That's why the last.
தானமா கொடுத்துட்டாரா?
Huh?
தானமா கேட்டு வாங்கிட்டாரா?
அதுக்கு ஒரு பெரிய ஸ்டோரி இருக்கு behind the scenes. But that Sahasra Kavacha is who's eventually born as Karna. And the Nara Narayana combination is what Arjuna and Krishna in that battle are going and fighting against Karna to get that last. Because, this, like I said, there's a huge backstory as to why there is not 1,000 and all that stuff. Kadasi Kavachathukku. But it is a Sahasra Kavacha to get rid of whom Nara Narayana's one purpose of the incarnation is, which they go get rid of eventually, right?
So this Nara is Arjuna.
In that Dwapara Yuga, he's born as Arjuna, correct?
Oh.
Yeah, that's why Krishna and Arjuna are always a pair. Even in that Mahabharata, right? From the time they met, they were always a pair. They were always together, right? Arjuna doesn't do anything without Krishna, right? In that Dwapara Yuga. So Daityam Sahasra. So again, this will again come in the 88th Dasakam, where when Arjuna and Krishna go, where Narayana will say that you are no different than me, except that in one of them, the spiritual godly portion is more. In the other one, it is slightly less. So that is a separation between Nara and Narayana. They're coming from the same person. One of them is more yogic powers, more divine powers. The other one is less, which is the Nara has a lesser amount, right? That's the only difference. Otherwise, they're always together. So Daityam Sahasra Kavacham Kavachaihi, put a F, Kavachaif Paritam, comma, Sahasra Vatsara Tapas Samarabhilavyehi Paryaya Nirmita Tapas Samarau Bhavantau, comma, Shishtaika Kankatamamum Nyahatam Salilam. Daityam Sahasrakavacham Kavachaif Paritam Sahasravatsara Tapas Samarabhilavyehi Paryaya Nirmita Tapas Samarau Bhavantau Shishtaika Kankatamamum Nyahatam Salilam.
दैत्यं सहस्रकवचं कवचैः परीतं साहस्रवत्सरतपःसमराभिलव्यैः पर्यायनिर्मिततपःसमरौ भवन्तौ शिष्टैककङ्कटममुं न्यहतां सलीलम्.
One time is enough for my dialogue. Lalita mute lirke.
Hello?
Yeah.
दैत्यं सहस्रकवचं कवचैः परीतं साहस्रवत्सरतपःसमराभिलव्यैः पर्यायनिर्मिततपःसमरौ भवन्तौ शिष्टैककङ्कटममुं न्यहतां सलीलम्.
Only a question, sorry. இங்க நான் வந்து Nara and Arjuna kill the last கவச்சான்னு போட்டிருக்கேன். அது தப்பா எழுதிருக்கேனா?
Arjuna only gets the Kavacha. Arjuna is the one who battles, Karna, right? So all the odd numbers are done by Narayana first. The even numbers are done by Nara. Okay. So another 1,000 becomes an even number, right? So अन्वाचरन्नुपदिशन्नपि मोक्षधर्मं त्वं भ्रातृमान् बदरिकाश्रममध्यवात्सीः शक्रोत ते शमतपोबलनिस्सहात्मा दिव्याङ्गना परिवृतं प्रजिघाय भारम्. So with this Nara and Narayana, they're always residing in Bhadrikashrama. So they're always doing penance there and teaching the path of liberation all the time to everybody who wants. So anytime we'll see that when somebody is spiritually getting very, very strong, right, then the Indra always is very worried. So because Indra is a position. So anytime somebody does X number of Ashwamedha yajnas or somebody who has reached certain level of spiritual potency, they can become the next Indra. So anytime that is happening, Indra always gets worried and then he tries to disrupt something. So what he does is he sends Kamadeva along with some other divine damsels from the Swargaloka to disturb Naranarayanas penance. So Anvacharan Nupadishannapi. You can try to say it as one word. Anvacharan Nupadishannapi Moksha Dharmam, Tvam Bhratruman Badarikashramam Adyavatsihi. You can break it that ma. Adyavatsihi. Shakrotate Shama Tapo Bala Nissahatma, Divyangana Parivritam Prajigaya Maram. Maram refers to Kamadeva. Anvacharannupadishannapi moksha dharmam tvam bhratruman badarika shramamadyavatsihi shakrotate shamatapo balanissahatma divyangana parivritam prajighaya maram.
अन्वाचरन्नुपदिशन्नपि मोक्षधर्मं त्वं भ्रातृमान् बदरिकाश्रममध्यवात्सीः शक्रोथ ते शमतपोबलं निस्सहात्मा दिव्यांगना परिवृतं प्रजिघायमारम्.
That Padmaja Garu, the third line, Shama Tapo Bala. There is no im there, okay? I heard an im sound.
Sorry.
Yeah.
शक्रोथ ते शमतपोबल निस्सहात्मा दिव्यांगना परिवृतं प्रजिघायमारम्.
अन्वाचरन्नुपदिशन्नपि मोक्षधर्मं त्वं भ्रातृमान् पदरिकाश्रममध्यवात्सीः शक्रोत ते शमदबोबलनिस्सहात्मा दिव्यांगना परिवृतं प्रजिघायमारम्.
Yeah. Stanza 5. I'll say the meaning of 5 in the next class because we won't have time today. Kamo Vasanta Malayanila Bandhushali, Kanta Kataksha Vishikair Vikasat Vilasaihi. You can clearly break it. Vidyan Muhurakampam Udikshya. That's, you have to say it, easier to say it that way. Muhurakampam Udikshya Chatwam, Bhirus Twayata Jagade Mridu Hasa Bhaja. Kamo Vasanta Malayanila Bandhushali Kanta Kataksha Vishikair Vikasat Vilasaihi Vidyan Muhurakampam Udikshya Chatwam Bhirustvayata Jagade Mriduhasa Bhaja.
कामो वसन्तमलयानिल बन्धशाले कान्ताकटाक्षविशिखैर्विकसद्विलासैः विध्यन्मुहुर्मुहुरकम्पमुदीक्ष्य च त्वां भीतस्त्वयाथ जगदे मृदुहासभाजा.
Fourth line, first word, Bhirus. Bhirus Tvayata.
Fourth line.
First word, Bhirus Tvayata.
Not Bhitas.
No, not Bhitas. It's Bhirus. Can you change it to Bhirus?
Yes.
And then the first line, last word, Bandhushali. Okay.
Bandhushali. Yeah, sure.
कामो वसन्तमलयानिलबन्धुशाली कान्ताकटाक्षविशिखैर्विकसद्विलासैः विध्यन्मुहुर्मुहुरकम्पमुदीक्ष्य च त्वां भीरुस्त्वयाथ जगते मृदुहासभाजा.
Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. And next week we'll continue with this and then Dhruva Charitram in the next class. सान्ध्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you.
Thank you.
அஜயஸ்ரீ, நீங்க அந்த ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சொல்றதும் இந்த லாஸ்ட்ல சொல்ற ஸ்லோகமும் எங்கேயாவது இருக்கா?
And the first Dasakamoda first stanza.
ஓகே, பிகாஸ் ஓகே.
Yeah, you didn't judge.
என்கிட்ட அந்த இது ரெக்கார்டிங் இருக்கான்னு தெரியல.
Okay, I'll send it to you. It's the first the Dhyana Stokam and this thing I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.